The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the producer and those appearing in this show and do not necessarily represent the views of DerryCAM, the town of Derry, or any of its staff or affiliates.
Hi, I'm Anthony Henry. Welcome back to America's Ass, Episode 9. Summer's almost here. We got like less than a week left, finals, so hope everyone's going to have a great summer and you're actually doing something, not on your phone. So, okay, Episode 9. This is our first episode with 2 guests. I'm really excited. So please welcome Representative Brian Cole of Manchester and Representative Tim Cahill of Raymond. So one of you can start. Take a minute to tell the audience about yourself.
My name is Brian Cole. I'm a state representative for the city of Manchester. I'm also the vice chairman of the Manchester Republican Committee, which is exciting because we're coming into the presidential election cycle this year.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you guys up to one of our meetings sometime if you want to knock yourself out. Yeah,
for sure.
I'm on Commerce and Consumer Affairs up at the State House. So we deal with the insurance commissioner, we deal with the banking commissioner, and we're also in charge of the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. So we have a pretty busy committee.
Yeah.
And I am Representative Tim Cahill from Raymond. I sit on the Municipal and County Government Committee, and I'm excited to be volunteering on the Trump campaign this season, and that's what I'm doing these days.
Okay, so speaking of Trump, biggest issue of the week was Trump's indictment by Special Counsel Jack Smith. Very average name, as Trump pointed out last night in his speech. So yeah, he got indicted. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, issued the special counsel to investigate, and yeah, he found stuff. 31 counts of willful retention of national defense info, 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice, 1 count withholding a document or record, 1 count corruptly concealing a document or record, 1 count concealing a document in a federal investigation, 1 count scheme to conceal, just conceal, and 1 count false statements and representations. So, yeah, we don't know much yet. We just know that that's what he's being charged with. He appeared in court yesterday in Miami and then followed that up with his first speech since the indictment. I actually watched the speech last night. I found it really interesting. Like, he went after them. Like, I've never seen him go after them like that in a while. It's been a while, so... Yeah, we'll start with you, Brian. What do you think?
I think it's shocking that they're indicting a former president of the United States to begin with.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, did he really even know that those documents were in his house with everything going on? Huge staff. I'm sure he can't keep pace of all that is going on there. And I understand that after he pleaded not guilty, he kind of turned into a rally out there, right? Yeah. So, I don't know. There's a lot going on. Hopefully things get straightened out for the election. Although I was told it's probably be like a year before they even went to court for this. So
yeah, December, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Today's his birthday, so
Yeah.
One could say that the timing of this is, it seems by design. President Trump is running for president. He's not going to back down. He's going to continue to run for president, and like you said, it's staging out for about a year from now, which just lines up to be perfect election interference. I mean, this just is more of the same old witch hunt that's been going on for year after year after year. And it's an embarrassment to our country, actually.
Yeah, and back in like April when this stuff kind of first started happening, I called it Banana Republic, as many other people have. We've never really seen this much going after political opponents before. It's really shocking, I think. So
I think it's interesting that the same thing has happened to Biden.
Yeah.
But there haven't been any indictments against him.
Yeah, and Trump brought that up in his speech last night. He said, I forget the name, but there was that one guy that was sneaking archives out and like putting them in his pants and sneaking out with that. Bill Clinton had stuff in his sock drawer. So
Exactly.
yeah, and they're not going after any of them. Pence did it too. Pence did it. Obama did it. Bush Jr. did it.
And that's just the ones we know about.
Yeah.
The fact is, people make mistakes, and then there's people that are doing these kind of things on purpose. And what we need is transparency and accountability for all. We can't have a two-tiered justice system in the United States of America anymore. The people can see what's going on everywhere, and they're tired of it.
It makes you wonder about the control of the documents that the White House has on it, too.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that stuff be signed out and then signed back in, or some kind of check and balance to make sure that this doesn't happen?
Yeah.
It keeps happening all the time.
Yeah, and as I've mentioned in previous episodes, Biden had all his stuff next to his Corvette. So Trump had it in a safe, had it in, safe places. If he did do what they said he did. And he's facing something like 100 or 400, I forget the number, like years in prison. Like, it's ridiculous what they're doing to him. And yeah, it's election season, and I think they're using it as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely election interference.
Yeah.
And it's, I've lived all over the world. My dad was in the Air Force, and so I visited all these other countries, and I've learned some of their history. And this is like almost akin to what happened to like Tsar Nicholas and his family. I mean that's where we're at in this country, like locking up your political opponents. I mean, dictators and tyrants do that.
Yeah. I had a couple friends in class. We were talking. Me and my friends have been talking about this at school a lot. We even snuck our phones out in math class to watch him go on the parade to the courthouse in New York City. But one of my friends actually has this theory that Trump's going to get assassinated. Like, and it's a terrible thought, but you got to wonder, like, are they going to go that far? Could they have him assassinated? Like,
unfortunately, the people we're talking about, they're so corrupt. I mean, they're all criminals themselves. They're projecting their crimes on Donald Trump. And I think that it's a possibility that they could attempt to do something like that. But he is very well protected. He has teams of people watching his back. The people are watching his back. And God is watching his back.
yeah.
Yeah, the control around him is pretty tight.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of his speeches, and the security was madness.
Yep.
Like multiple layers of airport style.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Were you able to attend the last Manchester rally?
I was in Florida when that happened. I was actually offered VIP tickets for that. So
He was phenomenal. The best.
I watched it on
yeah.
TV.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I was at his speech in January for the New Hampshire GOP. I was at that. And I was also at a speech in Tampa last year for Turning Point USA. That was a good speech, too. The Turning Point USA is like basically the Young Republicans thing for the country. There was 3,000 high schoolers and college students there. Everyone was fired up. It was awesome. So, yeah. And any Republican that thinks that kids aren't conservative, I think they're wrong. Like Pinkerton, for example. I'd say, rough estimate, maybe 60% of them are conservative. And many people are shocked by that. But like kids inherit their thoughts from their families, usually. Unless they get, brainwashed by the schools. But yeah, I think there's hope for my generation, as long as people and I hate to tout myself, but people like me just keep talking. So keep talking. If you think what I think, just keep talking. Eventually people will listen.
Absolutely, and you're right. There's so many kids that come up to me and they're like, "Can I get a Trump hat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here you go, kid." We're giving them out stuff. They want to get involved. They're amped. They're tired of what's going on, and they can see how hard their parents are having to work now just to buy groceries.
Yeah.
And they want those policies back.
Yep.
Yeah. I haven't mentioned this on the show yet, but my classmates in the freshman, sophomore, and junior classes just elected me as the Pinkerton liaison to the Derry School Board. So
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I will be the most conservative member of that board, and I don't even have a vote. But
You know what? Sometimes even just being at those meetings keeps you in the game, knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, are you allowed to sit in the non-public meetings too, or?
no, at the meetings, I give updates on what's going on at Pinkerton, like events, because Pinkerton's semi-private, so they're not part of the Derry school system. But unlike what other liaisons have done, I'm going to stay for the whole meeting, and when I feel my thoughts are needed, I'm going to give them, whether they like it or not. And school board already knows me. I was there with the whole mask stuff, so they know me well, and I'm really excited to see their faces when I start sitting at their desks. So.
What are your thoughts on parental rights?
I absolutely supported the Parental Bill of Rights. I was actually there when you guys first voted on it. February or March, I forget, but I skipped school that day. I rode up with some of the reps. They took me. Disappointed that's when it was tabled. Then it was killed a month later, I believe, for now. But I absolutely support it. And yeah, that's all I can say about it. It's needed. Other states have done it. We need it, but we need better numbers in the House first.
Yeah, so that's the key. And that's one of the reasons why I'm excited. Donald Trump's on top of the ticket. He's going to be on top of the ticket, and a rising tide floats all ships. We lost huge in the last election cycle as Republicans. We lost a lot of seats, and there's been this talk around the state that Donald Trump was to blame for that, and he wasn't even on the ticket. Yeah. But he will be this time, and it will have an overwhelming impact on this state.
Yeah. So that goes on to the next topic. It's kind of a sub-topic. We won't spend much time on it. But Representative Cahill, you've endorsed Trump. Representative Cole, you switched your endorsement from Trump to DeSantis. So why did you switch?
I like what he's done down in Florida. I like what he talks about with policies. He, when you go to his speeches, he talks about all the positive things that he's doing down there. He's not trashing anybody else. He's very direct. I like what he's done with parental rights down in Florida.
Yeah.
He's been tough on crime. They have very low crime down there. They have a budget surplus. He doesn't take any gruff. And once he makes up his mind, he does what he says he's going to do, and he follows through with it.
And Representative Cahill, why have you endorsed Trump?
Well, I've been with the president since day one, and loyalty is the most important thing we have. Our word, what we say, do what we say we're going to do, and loyalty. And he has stood up for us like no one has ever stood up for us, and I will be with him all the way.
Yeah. So on to the next topic. Antony Blinken, who's the Secretary of State, he will be visiting China this week. I believe he will be the first Secretary of State in 5 years to visit China. So between now and 5 years ago, we've had Chinese spy balloons, we've had COVID, we've had TikTok controversies. So if he stands up to China, which knowing him, he probably won't too much, it'll be really interesting to see what their discussions are like. So what are your thoughts?
I'm curious if he's going to do anything about the Chinese incursion into Taiwan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Taiwan could be invaded soon. We don't know.
It certainly seems like they're staging for it. With
Yeah.
everything that they're doing down there with the Chinese military and closing off waters. They did a practice embargo.
Yeah.
That's just scary stuff. Scary.
I imagine he's making the trip to China so he can collect his 10% for the big guy. It just seems like it's going to be the standard operating procedure for this administration to just launder money. And that's probably why he's down there in China.
What do you think Biden would say if it was Biden going? I don't think Biden's brave enough to go personally, but.
That's a great question.
I have no idea.
I think he would probably say whatever the earpiece in his ear was telling him to say.
My nickname for Biden is President Muppet. Not just because he's a total idiot, but because do you really think it's him calling the shots? The same guy that flew at the Air Force graduate. He didn't fall, he flew. He went out. It was hilarious. But yeah, like he's just so dense. Like it's hard to think he's calling the shots.
Yeah.
He's definitely just a pawn.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that that's what is representing the United States of America.
I mean, the Democrats aren't going to even allow him to debate other Democrats during the primary.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
And unfortunately, we see that in our own state. The last couple gubernatorial races, our governor didn't debate the other candidates. And one of the things that makes America great is choices and people getting the opportunity to run for office. And if you can't even stand and face and debate, have healthy conversation, how can we ever move away from our big separation that we have now? You know, we have to have these debates. That's part of the American way.
So you brought up Sununu. I asked this to my last guest, Kevin Verville, too. I thought Sununu was going to run for president, but he did not. So what do you think he's going to run for a 5th term?
I would like him to run for a 5th term because I don't want to see Joyce Craig get in as governor.
Or Cindy Warmington.
I mean, Joyce Craig is a disaster.
Yeah.
So
You're from Manchester.
I'm from Manchester. She's done nothing in that city. She's a lackadaisical mayor.
Yeah.
What bothers me the most is she was a former school teacher, so she's had a unique opportunity for 6 years to do something with the education department, and she's done nothing. It's gone backwards in Manchester. Only 31% of the students are good in math, and only 19% are good in English and writing.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You know, it needs to change, and that's all policy. It's not a monetary thing. That comes from the top, and she's done nothing to lead them. So, very frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had the opportunity to speak to Joyce. I've seen her at tons of her meetings, and I've seen her at events and stuff, and she's always shown me respect, but it seems like she just gets in line and does what their platform tells them to do. And I don't think the people want that kind of governor. I think they want a governor that can represent everybody, not just one system. And she hasn't really shown that she's willing to step out and work with everyone. She's working with her value system from her party. I would lead to guess that the governor will run for a 5th and historic term and be the longest acting governor in our state.
I think overall he's done a really good job.
Yeah. He's certainly united New Hampshire in a way I don't think any other politician I've seen has. Like, he gets support from Democrats and Republicans every election, especially in 2020 when he wiped the floor with Dan Feltes. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, so anyway, on to a less talked about topic, and I think it's for reasons that we all know, the media. They don't like to talk about this one. I'm going to butcher this name, but Mykola Zlochevsky. Has anyone heard that name?
No.
I knew that it was a topic this week. I wasn't paying too much of attention to it because it's finally just solidifying the fact that there was money laundering going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, he is a Ukrainian oligarch, basically. And Hunter Biden, son of Joe Biden, sits on the board of directors for this guy's company. And allegedly, there has been some money laundering going on between the big guy, aka Joe Biden, and this guy's company. Proving, for anyone that didn't think already, that the Bidens are one of the most corrupt families in American history. So, yeah, I think it speaks for itself personally. But
I think if the roles were reversed and they were trying to do that against Trump, imagine what kind of show that would be.
yeah,
But because it's Biden, it's just kind of being buried.
yeah, and maybe that's a reason this whole indictment's happening. This is coming out around the same time as this indictment, so cover up.
Yep.
If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, is duck.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that it speaks for itself. I don't think there's much discussion that needs to happen. But so, yeah, with the about 10 minutes we have left, you guys can talk about whatever's going on at the State House that's important to you. So, go right ahead.
Well, I know we just killed some more marijuana legislation in my committee, which I was pretty happy about.
Oh yeah, we're extremely happy that we killed the legislation.
Yep. So we tabled it. We're going to sit on it, and it won't come back up for review until September when we start looking at bills again. But for now, I'd rather wait till the study comes out in December with the Senate. But I don't think legalizing marijuana for the state is a good idea.
Yeah, last episode we had Kevin Verville on.
Yeah, yes.
He's the exact opposite of your view. So, what do you think can be done that is different from him, different from his point of view? Because it's
Well,
other view.
Verville tends to support legalizing acid, ditryptomethylene. If you look at his body of work with the bills he works and speaks on, he kind of leans to the ilk of let's legalize all drugs. And that sounds an awful like Seattle, Washington, and Oregon, all these states that are crumbling, like California. These are states that are crumbling because they've legalized drugs. The cost to the taxpayers is overwhelming, and it's stuff you don't even think about. Your insurance costs for driving around goes up because there's an overwhelming increase in traffic accidents. Like, these are the little things that people don't hear about because we're almost censored with what we say up at the State House, right? We don't get the opportunity to really talk to the people or talk to folks like you about these issues. I mean, we have increase of kids overdosing from weed. We have increased calls to poison control centers, right? Well, guess who pays that? John Q. taxpayer pays that. We have 10 years of data coming out of Colorado right now, okay? We've seen all the numbers. We know it's all bad, and anyone saying otherwise is just lying to the people.
Yeah, one of the things that killed me in the bill is you could put a shop that sells marijuana within 1,000 feet of a school. Now, I live in a big city of Manchester. There's a lot of kids that walk back and forth from school. So what am I supposed to tell the parents of a 5th or a 6th grader that has to walk twice a day past a store that sells weed?
Yeah.
And it's just not right. And a lot of statistics, like he was saying, things have doubled. Medical expenses have gone up 100%. Traffic fatalities have doubled. Used to be an average of 3 a week in those states. Now it's 6 a week in those states. Suicide rates for 14-year-old kids and up 24%.
Yeah, that happened. Unfortunately, we had a student commit suicide earlier this year at Pinkerton. He was one of the stars of the football team, well liked by everyone. I saw him play football once, but I never met him. I think it's the biggest problem America has right now, mental health epidemic.
100%. So we know that, like, for example, in males, there are two genders for the record, but in males, our brains don't stop developing until we're 24 years old, right? So when you start smoking weed and you're smoking it through your developmental phase, you're impacting your brain, and that's contributing to some of these mental illnesses and like our mental health problems that we're having. And let's not just forget, I mean, no one likes, the people from the other side don't like the word gateway, but marijuana is a gateway drug. Definitely. And it's a fact. We have epidemics with fentanyl and all kinds of drugs in this state, and legalizing marijuana will only contribute to causing more problems. We need to be working on solutions. We're solution-minded legislators. And I'm hoping that our governor can turn around here and see that we need solutions, not more problems. Because I'd like to see him back in office and continue to do a good job for the people. But this issue is going to be a huge one. I mean, I can't support a governor that wants to legalize any drugs, period.
Yeah, Pinkerton also has drug problems. Students know this. Don't go in the second floor boys' bathroom in the low building between classes. Yep.
And isn't it sad that you have to experience that? Don't you think you should be able to go to school in a free, healthy environment that doesn't have that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mind-blowing that more isn't being done to stop that. I've heard so many stories from students. I mean, I work with some coalitions on stopping drugs, and I hear these stories from students all the time. And it's really sad because they're there to learn. Yeah,
and I don't want to have to smell strawberries every time I go to the bathroom from vape pens.
There you go.
You know, and that's a whole nother topic that we really need some legislation on.
Vapes.
You know, we don't let smoking in buildings. Why are we letting vapes in buildings that are actually more poisonous than cigarettes?
Yeah.
There's unknown chemicals in all of those concoctions being manufactured over in China, no less, right? So, you know, we don't know the 20-year effect, what kind of cancers we're going to be causing from. I mean, and we've seen so many problems with last year, 2 years ago, the vapes were just exploding on kids, blowing up their faces. What happens when a vape blows up and catches a school on fire? We definitely don't want these vapes in the schools.
Yeah, totally agree. So we got a few minutes left. You guys like to give a closing statement? Start with you, Brian.
I'm working on a piece of legislation called the Given Name Act for schools. And it's going to stop teachers from nicknaming kids or any administration from naming kids other than what's on their birth certificate. It's also going to eliminate the use of pronouns in the school. So that's something we've been working on for about 3 months now. I'm also working on the Gatehouse Homeless program up in Manchester. And the way it's structured now is you bring somebody in and they detox them for 3 days and they can go back out on the street again. So they just keep going back and doing it. So what we're trying to do is wraparound services. Wraparound services, you get them into treatment, you figure out what their problem is, their underlying cause, but you support them from 6 months to a year to put them back on their feet, make them productive people in society again. So that's been an important cause that I've been working on with the State House. And right now we have 60 beds that came available, and the people that are in there, over half of them have stayed in the program. So it is working.
Yes, this Gatehouse program he's talking about is phenomenal. I've met with a couple of the people this week. They were at the school board meeting up in Manchester, and they're doing a really, really good job. And I'm really glad to be able to work with Brian on stuff like this. And that's how we get things done. Thanks for having me on the show first. Today's Trump's birthday. We're having a birthday party for President Trump at the Trump headquarters. We're opening it up today in Manchester. Nice. Anybody wants to go, we can get you the information and you can come on out. It's going to be a good time today. It's Flag Day, so we'll be waving some good old American flags because we love this country.
Yeah, thank you both for coming on. I had a lot of fun, some great discussion. Yeah, look forward to seeing what you both do with the State House. Yeah, nothing else to talk about, so I guess I'll end it. I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ass. Thank you for watching.